All right. Scorsese 1450 would like to know, Kenny, how did you get your start in racing?
Great question. And the reason that's a great question is because we tend to talk nowadays about, Brian Scott's dad, being a big part of Albertson, and his money comes from there, or my brother Rusty Wallace, supports Steven's career, or Joey Logano's dad supports his career, or, Justin Algar's dad spent the money on Justin's, ARCA career. Nowadays, the way you get your break is you have to have financial backing from family. Okay, so how did I get my start? The way I got my start was my dad, Russ Wallace, was a big winner. My dad won a lot, but we were like the Waltons. We had no money, and we would all go to our garage was right next to our house. So, we were rednecks. I asked my mom one day, I said, Mom, I went back home, and it's like Redneckville. I said, were we rednecks? And remember, I'm 9, 10 years old back then. And Mom told me, this is like 10 years ago, my mom goes, Hun, I'm afraid so. We were rednecks. So when I started racing, I came out of my house with a bologna and cheese sandwich with mayonnaise on it, and I walked into our shop right next, 2-car garage, right next to our home, my hands dirty, not caring about diseases, and start eating my sandwich, put it down, grab a Coke, and change gears on my dad's dirt car. So we grew up, under middle class. And the way I got my start in racing was learning how to work on my dad's race cars. How did I get to NASCAR? It's a long story, but real quick. My brother Rusty finally made it. We were delivering newspapers on Tuesday nights, and we were throwing newspapers out. We went past this one home that had it was a Sears Penske van. The Sears Penske van was Don Miller's home. And Don Miller worked for Roger Penske. And you see, race fans, we were lucky. We threw a newspaper to this man's home every time. We got up enough nerves to stop, and that's how Rusty Wallace got his break. And my brother told Don Miller, look, man, I can drive. And then Rusty started winning, and then Don Miller told Roger Penske, and that is the truth. That's the way we got down here. And then it snowballed. And then my brother Rusty said, hey, Herm, I've got this sponsor called Cox Treated Lumber. Do you want to come south? You see what I'm saying? It was a snowball effect. I had no money behind me. I had love for my family. I had my big brother, Rusty Wallace, who I love, and I love my brother, Mike. But that's the truth. That's the way it happened. I had no money, but my brother, helped me. And then, of course, guys like John Childs Tire.
Yeah.
John Childs helped me get racing. He bought my framing cage, things like that.
He was big with you back in your ASA days, wasn't he?
In 1986, my wife, Kim, worked at Pope's Cafeteria. She gave me her paycheck. We bought our first Dillon trailer. My dad took one of his CDs out and put it up for collateral for me to get a loan to buy my first bread truck.
Yeah.
John Childs put the tires and wheels on it for me. I went down to Carroll House Furniture in Valley Park and bought a little love seat. Do you see what I'm saying? I always got just enough, but never enough. Goodyear, I was on a plan. They give me 3 tires a race, not 4. So that's the way I got racing. And because I showed so much will, so much passion, there were people along the way that said, Herm, I know you're down and out. Here's $1,200. That's the way I got started racing.
Yeah. We got another one here. Dwayne just says, Kenny, love you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm going to take that opportunity to have you tell another story I've always enjoyed with you. Going back to your ASA days, you told me a story once about when you first got started in ASA,
right,
and you were racing against their legendary driver, Mike Eddy.
Right.
You guys had it coming together,
yep,
which you ended up working in the race shop, and you got a phone call about. Tell that story.
Well, we were, I think it was 1986, 87. We're in Anderson, Indiana, and it's a little bitty track, like smaller than a quarter-mile track. No, it was 1986, my very first year becoming a race car driver. I didn't run hobby stocks. I drove nothing, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm just going to go ASA because I was able to do it. At this time, I'm 22 years old. I started racing when I was 22 years old, so I'm like, man, I got to get going. Could you imagine starting at 22 years old now? You'd be done.
Tough, yeah.
Especially in motocross, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If I started motocross at 22, I'd be an old man.
Yeah.
So I had to get going. So I run ASA, and I'm racing Gary St. Amant for Rookie of the Year, which I won the Rookie of the Year. But I'm sitting there racing, and all of a sudden, I'm getting lapped. And like lap one, like 150 of a 400-lap race. And I come up off of turn 4, and I get hit in the right rear, and I go in. I don't go in the wall, but all of a sudden I go into turn 1, and Mike Eddy clobbers me, knocks my clock, destroys my car, and we're pitted inside the infield. And I get out of my race car, and I'm just devastated. I'm 22 years old. My dad's Russ Wallace. He's a winner. My brother, Rusty Wallace, my brother Mike were all winners, and I wreck out. I'm like, why did Mike Eddy wreck me so bad? And this was what helped me to learn to race the racetracks. Dick Trickle finished second, and it's a little bitty track. So Dick Trickle gets out of his car, takes his helmet off. He's got his cowboy boots on. He's all kind of dizzy, and he looks, he sees me. He doesn't do an interview. Dick Trickle beelines to me because I'm in the middle of the infield. I can't get out of the racetrack, right? Dick Trickle says, my boy, look up at that scoreboard. I look up at the scoreboard. He goes, where did Gary St. Amant finish? I said 5th, 1 lap down, because they were going so fast. He says, what you didn't realize is the leader was coming, Mike Eddy. And Mike would have been patient with you, but I, Dick Trickle, was hitting Mike Eddy in the rear. Let's go, because I got somebody running third on me. He says, don't hold us up. He says, you'll get better. He says, race the racetrack. The biggest lesson I ever learned was to don't get busy racing this guy on lap 100. So all of a sudden, I learned the biggest lesson of my career. That was the #1 lesson, to race the racetrack like Mark Martin does. And Mark Martin learned that probably from Dick Trickle.
Yeah, same proving grounds, yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, so Mike Eddy and me and his wife are dear friends now. But me and Mike Eddy talk on phone, a couple weeks later. And, I'm like, Mike, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to race at that time. It took a lot out of me to say, Mike, I didn't know how to race. Here's what I thought. I'm looking in my mirror. I'm Kenny Wallace. I'm one of the Wallaces. I can't be getting lapped right now. I got to hold them off. How stupid of me. And, me and Mike became friends, and Mike Eddy, he'd chew that gum. He'd chew that gum, and he'd say, that's all right, boy, you're learning how to race now. You're learning. So that was a big lesson in my life, and that's a great story, Ralph. I wish, I am the mayor of the Nationwide Series.
Yeah.
And I do want to go to the rookie meetings and tell people that story, some of these young drivers that wreck out 30 laps into a race.
Yeah.
We're not racing each other. We're racing the leader. We're racing the leader. The leader's up there. We're running 5th. We got to make laps as fast as we can.
All right. Well, we got our final question for you today. Comes from Daniel Judd, and he says, hey, Kenny, what effect, of any, has picking a series for points had on keeping the regular Nationwide drivers excited about this year's championship?
Daniel, it's a good deal. And let me tell you why it's a good deal. Because you, the fans, don't know any difference. You tune in on ESPN or Speed for practice, and you go, hey, there's, Carl Edwards, there's Kyle Busch, there's Brad Keselowski, there's Mark Martin, there's Dale Jr. All the Cup drivers are still in the series every week, but a lot of the Cup drivers are picking which races they want to run. The fans, the fans have told, the official NASCAR fan club, members, there's the council. And the council told NASCAR, we're getting tired of these Cup drivers coming in, and nobody cares about Kyle Busch winning the championship. Nobody cares about Carl Edwards winning the championship. Why? Because it's like this. There's 3 drivers racing each other. It's Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski. So the fans said, let those poor Cup or the poor Nationwide car owners, the guys that only got a little bit of money, let their drivers run for the championship. So that's what's going on now. Turner Motorsports, my car owner, Robbie Benton. Now we're going to run for the championship. and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Alex Rodriguez does not go down and play AAA when the big show is at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Make a choice. You can't do both.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you on here, pal. Good seeing you again.
My
Best of
first
luck
time.
this weekend, huh? Kenny, actually the first guy to join us in studio this year for our live chat. So hopefully we'll get you back for the year's out.
Well, Kate Davis called me up. She's a sweetheart. And I said, well, hell yeah. And then I come down here, and I knew you were going to be on here. Thank you, and congratulations on all his success. He's on speed every damn week doing the motocross races. He get me all excited. There's Ralph.
I know you got to go take a look at the tour of the Hall of Fame. So thank you for joining us live here today on our NASCAR Nationwide Series live chat. We'll see you next Tuesday at 11 a.m.